Welcome at slashwhy. I'm happy that we today will talk about battery management, the invisible control center of the energy transition. There is no lack of technology, but a lack of economic incentives, regulatory clarity and smart control. Many storage systems are standing around without being used to benefit the grid. So, the topic today, in conversion with Mark from Electrofleet, how can battery management be implemented efficiently and economically? And what role does software play turning blunt storage system into truly smart system servants? So again, Mark, welcome you here at slashwhy. And first of all, batteries come in all sizes, from cell phones batteries to industrial storage systems. What are the most important energy storing systems in the context of the energy transition?
Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here. Appreciate that you guys care about this topic because I do all day long, and it's nice to have someone, a good conversation partner. It's a really exciting time to be in this space because all of the pieces and parts are coming together. We have a problem, which is expensive electricity. We've been very successful as a country at getting more renewables on the grid. In May, we had 70% renewable energy contribution in terms of production. So just incredible. That brings with it its own set of problems, right? So the volatility, the intermittency of renewables brings this new problem to solve. So solving one problem created a secondary effect, gives us a new problem to solve. But what's exciting about this time is with battery prices coming down, you can leverage battery technology to solve these problems.
Okay, so what role do battery storage systems currently play in the energy mix? You started to explain it, but especially in combination with the grid stability?
Unfortunately, not enough today. We're just in the very early days. We know what to do, as you observed. We're just not doing it enough yet. I think last statistic I heard, which is probably 8 months old now, we had 7 gigawatts of residential battery storage in Germany, which is fantastic. Just for context, on any given day, there's a roughly 60 gigawatts of load on the system in Germany during most hours of the day, not at night. So 7 gigawatts might sound like a significant proportion of it, but we have 2 problems. One is those are residential. They're not always behind smart meters. They're not always steerable. And so in a sense, those are kind of, let's say, wasted on the grand scheme of things. They're solving micro problems at the household level and not macro problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in which areas do you already see relief for the power grid?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just listening to an interview with a former head of a grid operator in the U.S., and he was making observations on the Spanish blackout. And his biggest message, which he really drove home, was if you're going to add that many renewables to the grid and create incentives to do that, you have to create incentives to add enough batteries to the grid to solve that problem. The simplest solution would have been batteries, and there just weren't enough. We have a greater proportion of batteries relative to overall size of the grid in Germany. But unfortunately, real relief is not a word I would use yet. You're starting to see people capitalize on an economic model and realize an economic model, which is exactly what is necessary. So often in infrastructure, we think in terms of public policy as the only way to move things forward. But I think it won't happen at scale unless there is a market incentive, a market-based reward for acting and allocating capital to it, because the sums are just so vast. It's trillions in Europe that need to be allocated to this, and you can't do it on a tax base. It needs to come from private capital markets, which is part of our project, right? So that's what's really exciting. So do I already see real relief? I see hope of real relief, meaning the economic model is becoming clear. And once the economic model is clear, the capital will follow. And that's the exciting part about where we're at today.
Okay. When we look at software and data intelligence, maybe another point of view is how important is intelligent battery management to achieve grid serviceability?
Yeah, that's the holy grail. Where do I begin? Because it's such a complex topic, because you have, at the hardware layer, you have your own optimization and balancing. Because if you look at a big container, right, a 20, 40-foot container, it's not one battery. It's many, many cells, many, many modules, many, many racks. And just roughly, generally, I hope I don't get too technical here, but a rack is usually paired with one inverter. And so that's generally the steerable asset, is the inverter, to determine whether you're charging, discharging, or doing nothing. But behind all of that is a lot of balancing that needs to occur. And you might have a badly behaving cell, which then kind of infects a module, because it generally goes to the lowest common denominator. So if you have one cell that's underperforming, it reduces the performance of that module. Then, depending on your battery management system, it reduces the performance of the entire rack. So this is just the first layer, is the physical layer of battery management. But it's so important, because we have these, let's say, demand and consumption optimization layer, right, which is an optimization. Then you've got the economic layer. But we're now struggling to meet some of our economic goals, because just the most basic aspects of balancing cells in a module and then modules in a rack is not yet, I would say it's more voodoo art than it is science at the moment. And that's there's room for improvement across every level.
Okay. And when we are talking the different level, there are very tough points for software is needed for. So what makes for you a good battery management system?
Yeah, so back to my voodoo comment, it's complete transparency. It's absolute complete transparency. We've learned a lot. We work with many battery manufacturers, and I would say we've kissed a lot of frogs trying to find our prince, and so we're still waiting on our prince. You know, as we learn with everyone we work with, and everyone has relative strengths and relative weaknesses. And just one silly, simple example, just to show you how hard it is. It's very hard to get a state of charge, an accurate state of charge percentage during charging or discharging.
Okay.
And so you have to either stop the process or have very good metrics to kind of extrapolate data to estimate where you are in terms of state of charge. If you're doing energy trading, it's really important to know your state of charge, because if you mismeasure it, the battery could stop performing and you don't trade, you don't deliver your trade, and you lose money. And so it's really important to have incredible transparency at all layers. That's my number one ask for any battery management system, is great visibility, great performance parameters and KPIs, and then alarms that actually notify you. Because what we find in a lot of systems is the information's there. There's just no concept around what correct operating parameters might be and when we've stepped outside of them.
Okay. So when we are talking about the transparency, what role do predictive analytics and machine learning play in charging and discharging strategies at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are some great companies who have spent a lot of time on this, all the way down to the cell level, looking at voltage fluctuations and temperature levels, which tell you a lot. And they're working backwards into, okay, what are the performance characteristics that signal there might be a problem, so that you go investigate. When you're dealing with something physical, you can only respond, even machine learning can only respond to the information you have. And so that's why the transparency and visibility is such an important piece for me, because you can build all of the analytics you want, but if you don't have a measurement of the right information to trigger the right response, then it's worthless. So I'm still maybe at the foundational level, like we still need to get really good at the fundamentals before getting too exotic. Now, like I said, there's some amazing predictive analytics companies who are doing some amazing things in this space. So I look forward to being able to leverage it. At the moment, we're encouraging our suppliers to open their platforms up. And it is telling that some battery suppliers are very slow to opening that performance data up, because you can either say it's their secret sauce, or you can say it makes them very vulnerable to maybe us being too critical of their platform architecture.
Okay, I understand. When we are talk about the application and the economic efficiency, what do you think, what requirements does scalable battery management place on the software landscape and companies?
Yeah. So,
sorry for that question.
No. My mind keeps going to these different layers. I really hope that the physical layer gets solved soon, because it should be table stakes, the price of entry. If you want to be in the game, it should be so solved. It should be a solved problem, and amazingly, it's not. And this is where I encourage anybody going into the battery space to look very carefully at the performance characteristics of that hardware architecture and that platform. For me, I would love to forget about the physical characteristics. It like I said, it should be a solved problem, and move on to the optimization of power flows, and then the economic optimization. That's where it gets really interesting. And so, that's my wish list. But amazingly, in 2025, we still need to work at the physical layer. And so I would say I would still place a lot of focus on, is it physically performing according to the data sheet, according to the performance characteristics I need? And of course, thermal management is a big part of that. And that's why we're not there yet, 100% liquid cooled, just as an example, because a lot of people tried to save money and simplify by doing air cooled, radiating the heat out into the space and then having an air handler cool the air. But the time it takes for the heat to radiate out, the time it takes for a thermostat to measure that, the time it takes for then an air handling to cool the air, and air is not an efficient way to transfer heat, and then get rid of the heat, you've already got a major problem. So it's something as basic as that, as heat management, which relates back to software.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think, what still needs to be done in technical, in regulatory, or economic terms to make batteries more economically attractive?
Yeah. Do better.
Point.
Everyone, just do better. It's I know everyone's trying, right? And we have high expectations of our entire supply chain. And so on the technical side, we've covered that. We talked a lot about the physical layer. From a regulatory perspective, batteries are at a disadvantage right now, and primarily from a grid fee, because the minute you do take a battery out of wholesale activity and use it for local optimization, 100% of its charging and discharging, or 100% of its charging is subject to grid fees, which destroys the economics of the battery. Our position is that's antiquated thinking, grounded in an old way of doing business, and limits, probably misses the point of the value that battery can bring in terms of grid stability and also price stability. So it's both the physical, regulating the voltage on the grid, but also regulating the market price because of availability or supply versus demand. So regulatory, we would really argue for an easing of that poorly written law. We don't even think it was intended that way, but it was written in a vague way so that a careful conservative reading would say you're subject to grid fees if you do more than one thing with the battery, which is damaging to battery success. Economic terms, it's a wonderful time to be alive, right? We have if you're a battery, it's a wonderful time because we have high volatility, which means the midday, generally during solar days, the midday price is very low at or below zero, and the evening peak is quite high. Mm-hmm. So that spread already creates the economic opportunity for the batteries. That's a solved problem. There's almost nothing we need to do in that case.
Cool. When we have an outlook, if you could break all the rules of physics, what would your perfect energy storage setup look like? And what the use case would it have?
Well, that's a dangerous question. I picture, so when I grew up in Texas, it's a very flat state. And so you have a hard time getting water pressure in the cities. Okay. And so every city would have a water tower where it's this huge tower. You'd pump it up, and this big pool would sit there, and it's, I don't even know, 30 meters above the ground. And so that pressure then supplies the city with pressurized water. If I could do whatever I wanted to, I know they're ugly, I would put those everywhere. Because pumped hydro is the most efficient long-term solution. It is the perfect battery because it never fails. Yeah. And it's just a pump and some pipes, so you don't have lithium-ion degradation. So that's me breaking the rules. The good news is in the real world, not my dream world, lithium iron phosphate batteries. The performance characteristics are fantastic, and they're going through the roof. There's now a battery you can get a 20-year warranty on. So even 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that was going to happen. So we're not at perfection, but the economics are improving vastly all the time. So it's an exciting time to be in this space.
Nice point of view. Thank you, Mark, for your time. So when I close interview, for me, what I learned, battery storage systems only realize their potential when they can communicate with their environment, like with buildings, vehicles, grids, and markets, what you told about. This does not require more complex technology, but better software that we are talking about. Is not in storing, but in charging and discharging correctly at the right time and the right goal, what you're talking. And for me, you makes clear intelligence battery management means linking operating status, grid requirements, and economic conditions in real time. And anyone who masters this can not only use storage systems more efficiently, but also transfer them into new business models, from peak shaving strategies to flexible energy trading. All in all, the real asset is not the battery itself, but the ability to embed it in a system that thinks for itself.
Absolutely. Can I reference the project we've done together?
Of course.
So it's the perfect example, because every energy management system we looked at thought it was siloed thinking. It was thinking of this one asset. I'm going to optimize this wind turbine or this PV plant or this battery. And maybe it would optimize to the building. Let's just take a battery. I might optimize to the building. Maybe I'll optimize to charging demand. Really exotic in this space has been considered optimizing to all those plus market conditions. As a utility, we have a much more macro view, because we aren't just optimizing one location, we're optimizing multiple locations. We're not just optimizing storage and offtake, we're optimizing multiple forms of production, market conditions, storage, and offtake. And so we're responsible to deliver prognosis every day of what our production is going to be and what our demand is going to be. And the German energy market is extremely well designed to make sure you're good at forecasting, because there are economic punishments if you are bad at forecasting. So it means you either get good or you're forced out of the market. And so any deviation from forecast is cost. It's designed that way. It's called imbalance. So imbalance avoidance and being able to leverage batteries in relation to the macro environment is huge for us. So that's the project we built together, is how do we feed all of this relevant information to get the maximum use out of the battery. And I think you said it well, that the battery is a tool. It's one tool in the toolbox, but it has to be in context of the overall environment, which requires an incredible amount of information. We have over 50 real-time data feeds coming into our system. Last year, in our first year of operation, we accumulated 4 billion data points.
Okay.
And so we're very serious about accumulating as much data as we can to train our AI models to get better at this. But yeah, focusing on the battery itself in a silo. If you have a lot of money, you can do that. If you want to maximize utilization of it, look at it and operate it in context of the larger world in which it lives.
Okay, thank you for the conclusion. Thank you for the outlook. And thank you, Mark, that you are here at slashwhy with us to get this interview. And thank you for your time.
Thanks for your partnership. We really enjoy working with you guys.
Thank you.